Hi. Okay, so I have been getting a ton of questions about this topic, and this is probably one of the more overwhelming features that IrisWorks has to offer. And I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you will be able to completely make sense of the options here and choose the best way for you to get paid and invoice your clients. So, a couple things we're going to chat about. We're going to chat about, again, the difference between invoice setup and invoice templates and how my brain is going to explain this to you. And then I'm also going to walk you through a couple of different options of how you can require retainers, session remainders, how you can set up payment schedules without it being completely overwhelming. So this is obviously a very important step of IrisWorks because you want to get paid, right? We all do. Okay, so what I want to explain to you is that over here on the left-hand side of IrisWorks, you have these two tabs, and they both say invoice. And I know this is really complicated when you're first starting to use IrisWorks, but I'm hoping that I can simplify it for you. So this top tab, when you click on it, it will show you a couple different options. So it'll show you your payment processors, some settings, some integrations, and then on the bottom, it'll say invoice products. And so, what I want you to know and how I want you to think about that is your invoice products is every type of session you have to offer and any a la carte items, prints or products or anything like that that you have that the client can add on to their session. Okay. So, this is going to look very different for every single person. Okay. And so for your products, that's literally when you think of invoice setup, I want you to think of I need to list out under products all of my session types and anything else I have to offer. That's it. That's all I want you to do is go add all of that in. And then you'll be ready for this tab, which is what we're in right now. And that is called the invoice template. Now, when you think about an invoice template, I want you to picture a invoice receipt. So all of the items that you're sending to one client to have to pay for, okay? So maybe you do cake smashes or 1 year portrait sessions. So you have a one year portrait session fee. And then maybe you have as your a la carte option that they can add additional money and you will provide the cake for them. So I want you to think about it like that. Okay. Maybe you have collections that people are going to buy from you if you do an IPS model or whatever that might look like. So it's going to look different for everybody. I don't want you to freak out, but I'm going to show you how you are going to pull your products into invoices and a couple different options you have for how you can send that to your clients. So we're going to pretend that I am making a invoice for my maternity session. Okay. As for days due, this is where it gets complicated because like I said, it's going to be different for everybody. Now I automatically default to 1 day until due. And it's just the easiest for me. But if you have a set payment schedule of like you require the whole thing be paid for a certain amount of days before booking, then you're going to be able to, in your workflow, have an email that's going to send this invoice out to your client and it's going to explain to them that it's due on a particular date. And then the due date, so let's say you're going to send the invoice out 2 weeks before their session and they have to have it paid 1 week prior. Then if you know it's going to be sent 2 weeks before their session, but you need it within 7 days, all you would put is 7 days until due. Because the day they're going to receive the invoice, it's going to tell them they have 1 week to get it paid. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you don't really have a for sure schedule, or if you're going to manually send your invoices and not use a workflow, just for whatever reason, I would just default to 1 day. Okay. Do not overthink the days due. It is really not that big of a deal. 1 day. All right. In the memo section, it's totally optional. I use it as a way to communicate with my clients, send a reminder, point out an important piece of the contract that they signed. And so this one just simply says, this invoice covers your photography session. The retainer is due within 24 hours of booking. The remainder of the session is due 1 week prior to the session date. The retainer is non-refundable. Okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, because again, here's where we're going to give you choices. The first choice I'm going to walk you through is if you don't require your clients at booking to pay their retainer, but you plan on sending them an immediate confirmation email and then asking them to pay that retainer. Okay. So this is option number one. This is going to have both the retainer payment and the session remainder. So what I did was I just came over here and I added a random sample product. I priced it at $400 and then I left it at that. Now you can leave that totally alone if you want to, but for most of us, we need to add a payment schedule. If we want a retainer due first, and then we want the rest of the session due 1 week before, then we need to set up the payment schedule so that it will reflect that on the invoice. Okay. So you're going to click add payment schedule here, and then you're going to choose a plan. Again, there are so many options here. Do not get overwhelmed. Okay. It's so easy. Do you want them to pay a retainer and then one more payment, so it's split in half? Do you want them to pay a retainer and then have a payment plan? So you can have, these are all the different invoices that you could potentially have if you wanted to. Do you want them to have multiple equal payments, or do you want to do something custom? I'm going to tell you the easiest option is to do a retainer and a balance. Okay. Actually, no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's custom. Ignore me. It's custom. Okay. So here is what you're going to do. Let's say that I require the retainer due within 24 hours of booking. So they booked their session, and then they're going to get this confirmation email that's like, thank you so much for booking with me. Here's a reminder of what you booked. And here are some important things for you to know. Number one, I require a non-refundable retainer to be due within 24 hours. And that's when they're going to get this. And you can say, hey, the invoice is attached to this email. If you'll just get that paid, the remainder is not due until 1 week before your session, but you're welcome to pay it whenever is convenient for you. Okay. So what you're going to do is we're just going to say that we require 50% at booking and 50% later. Okay, so then we're going to say that we need it 1 week. So let's do, which we said 50, I'm sorry. So we're going to put in 50% here. I'm just playing around with numbers right now. Okay, and then we're going to click finish. So watch, here's what it says. It says, when the invoice is received, they're required to pay 50% of the total within 24 hours. Then 1 week later, they're going to have an opportunity to pay the other half. All right. So it's up to you. Like I said, this is where it's going to get a little tricky because you just got to decide what's your policy. And then whatever your policy is, you're going to come in here and you're going to make it happen. So then you can click save. If that's what you want to do and you're happy with that, you're going to click save, and then you can head over to your workflow and make it an automatic email that will send out at a certain time. Okay. I'm not going to walk you through that today. I have other workflow videos that you are more than welcome to watch. But the other thing is, let's say you don't want to do this. Let's say you're like me and you require their retainer due at booking. So one of the cool features of IrisWorks is that in your booking calendar, you can require your people to have to pay their invoice at booking. So before they even get off the booking process, they have to pay that retainer, and that's what secures their date. That's what I do. That's what I recommend you do. It will save you so much headache, so many cancellations, so many nightmare clients in the future. So I recommend you do that. Then what you're going to do, so if you've got that, so let's say if we're going to do that, then you are going to have a template that is called Session Retainer. Again, 24 hours to pay it or right then. So just default it to 1 day until due. And then what I like to do is I like to say this invoice covers your non-refundable retainer fee to secure your date on my calendar. If you want to tell them when they can expect to pay the rest of it, you can. Otherwise, I like it short and sweet, and I leave it right here. And then what you would do is you can edit this here to go pull your session retainer product. So again, remember, if you charge retainers, you're going to go back to the products and you're going to add in session retainer and however much you charge. Okay. And then that's going to go here. And then you can have this automatically toggle on your booking system to where they're going to get the retainer immediately and have to pay it. So then what I do is I have one more type of invoice template called a session remainder. So this invoice covers, let's do the remaining session fee and is due 1 week prior to your session date. Okay. So again, you can default it to 1 day, but if you know in your workflow that you're going to have it send 2 weeks before their session date, okay, then you're going to put 7 days. Because let me back this up. I'm not confused, but I want to make sure you're following. Let's say that their session date is happening on the 20th, okay, the 3rd week of the month, but you require it 1 week prior. You're going to send it 2 weeks prior. So that way they have an entire week to get it paid. So you're going to send it out on the Friday before. So that way they have a week until the Friday it's actually due. And then that way you are completely paid before their actual session date. Okay. Do not get confused. It's just an example. Take it or leave it. But I would just put 7 days until due. And then you would come in here and you would put whatever the session remainder is going to be. And then you're going to come down here and you would click save. And then you can head over to your workflows, which I'll just do that really quickly so that I don't confuse anybody else. But let's say on your workflow, let's go to my, I'm trying to choose one. Let's go to my Easter minis. Okay. Let's edit my Easter minis. So what you can do is up here, we want to toggle on that session remainder. I'm going to say send the email. And then I would pick one that was all about the session remainder. I actually don't even know. Yeah, right here, session remainder. Okay. So send the email session remainder. And I want it to send before the session by 2 weeks. And then I would click add item. That's all you have to do. And inside of that email template, I would have already added on the correct invoice. And then boom, they get it 2 weeks prior and you're good to go. If you're still confused, let me know and I will try to dumb it down a little bit more. Not that you're dumb, but that I understand this is a lot to take in. But I just wanted to show you guys the different options you have in IrisWorks. That's the great news. Again, we have so many options. It's just up to you and your business and your policies and what you require to figure out how to put all of that into a workflow in IrisWorks. But I hope that made it a little more simple for you. I hope that was able to at least take your overwhelm away and give you some options to think on. And maybe you just want to test the waters, see what works best for you, and then choose which one actually does work best for you. So I hope that helped. I will see you guys in the next video that I do for IrisWorks. And in the meantime, I hope you're loving it. I hope that you are diving into it and truly giving it a chance to work for you, because it has completely changed my life and business. And I literally could not run my business without it. I'll see you guys on the next video.